One of the benefits to taking AP World History is that at the end of the year, you have the opportunity to take the AP World History exam, which is a cumulative summative assessment designed and provided by the College Board to measure your historical content knowledge and your historical skills that you have gained from taking this course. This test is great because students who score a 5, 4, 3 on this exam can receive college credit during their post-secondary careers, meaning you don't have to take this course, World History, when you go to college. You already have credit for it. The test is broken into two pieces. The first section of the test is the multiple choice section. It is 55 minutes long, and you have to answer 70 multiple choice questions during that time period. Now, just doing the math there, you can see that you have less than a minute per multiple choice question. So time is a major issue or hurdle to worry about when taking this portion of the test. It's also worth noting that most of the questions are not simple identification questions, such as, this is an example of an identification question, what year did Columbus sail the ocean blue? And it then lists off dates for you to pick. They're not like that. No. It's going to be more like where you will see a primary or secondary source document. You'll read it and then answer a question based on the content in that document. Or you'll be asked a question about two civilizations. And then from those two civilizations, you have to find a similarity or a difference. Or you'll be given a piece of propaganda or political cartoon. You have to analyze what the message or agenda of the cartoon is. So it is something that takes more time to process than a simple, I either know this random fact or I don't. We will spend the entirety of our year practicing these questions, and you will receive several unit exams that will have questions written in this design, so you're more than familiar with these questions and will know how to answer them when you see the AP exam. The second portion of the exam is the free response section. Free response is just a fancy way of saying the essay section. You will be given 3 essay questions, and you have 10 minutes to read the questions and then begin writing an outline for how you will answer these essay questions. Then you will have 2 hours to actually write your 3 essays. And it's important to note that these 3 essays are not of a similar structure, but are in fact 3 different types of essays entirely. These essays are the comparative, the CCOT, which stands for changes and continuities over time, and the DBQ, which is the document-based question. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about what each of these essays are, and in later videos you can watch the specific components for how they're graded and understand what the process the reader goes through when they're grading essay and what you should be writing for as you write it. It's important to note, though, that before you begin writing essays, you are given 10 minutes to read the questions and to kind of begin outlining your ideas. Now, it's not a lot of time for 3 essays, but it is something that is helpful. All 3 of the essays will require you to write a thesis. Now, the thesis is by far the most important part of all your essays, because it sets the framework for what you're going to write. It gives the reader a blueprint of where you're going to be going with this, and so they know how to really kind of structure their thoughts and your thoughts as they're going through and processing this essay. The AP World History thesis, although it has a similar goal to all other theses, which is to directly answer a given prompt as effectively as possible and to provide this roadmap to someone reading it, has some differences from an essay that you might write or a thesis that you might write in English class or other classes. The differences being that this thesis can be more than one sentence as long as the sentences are continuous, one after the next. And also, another difference is that they can be rather long. In fact, several very good theses that can be written for these exams can be a paragraph in length, or it can be one really well-written sentence. The length does not matter. It's about the content for the AP World History thesis. So it's okay to have multiple sentences that go for several lines if they are continuous and they are answering the prompt and being very specific to that question and not just rambling. Talking to AP graders this summer, this is a quote, they have said that they have never seen a thesis that was too descriptive, that had too much content in it, but they have seen many theses that have not enough content in it. We'll go through these differences in class, but it's important to note that although the goal of the thesis is the same from what you're used to writing, there are some differences that you can take advantage of as you're writing it for the AP World History exam. The first essay is the comparative essay, and we'll spend a trimester working on each of these essays. So Tri 1 will focus on the comparative essay, Trimester 2 will focus on the CCOT, and then Trimester 3 will focus on the DBQ. The first one that we'll tackle is the comparative. What it's asking you to do is to take two civilizations, oftentimes they'll give you multiple options, and tell the reader how they are similar and different in a specific category or theme. So this is the prompt from last year's AP exam, and it says, analyze similarities and differences in how two of the following empires used religion to govern before 1450. Sorry about the typo there, this should be up here. So it's asking you to find similarities and differences about how two of these three empires or civilizations used religion to govern. And this before 1450 isn't too much of a word because these all existed before that time period. So it's your job to write out a little mind map of what were examples of ways that religion was used to govern these empires, and then pick the two of the most on, and then write an essay that demonstrates how they had similar methods of using religion to govern, and also different methods for using religion to govern. It's important with the comparative that you know you have to find similarities and differences, and it's not just finding similarities. We often associate the word comparative with similarity, but really for this class it's finding both things that are similar, the same, and items that are different. The second type of essay is the CCOT, which stands for Changes in Continuity Over Time. The question is asking you to do exactly what the title is. It wants you to take a region of the world during a specific time period and identify things or themes or patterns that stayed the same and others that changed. This is the prompt from last year's exam, the 2014 one, and it asked you to analyze continuities and changes in the ways one of the following regions participated in inter-regional trade during the periods from 1500 to 1750. So it's asking you to identify one of these three places. Okay, one of these three. They're regions. And from this time period here, 1500 to 1750, how did they remain the same and change in regards to interregional trade? So what patterns of trading with other regions, remained the same, and what patterns changed? This is a new essay. I'm sure before that you've had to write comparison essays in English class and other classes, and you're probably somewhat familiar with it. The CCOT is something that's brand new for you with this course, but it will spend a lot of time kind of getting you used to because it is so new. The big thing though that you do is that you just answer the prompt. If it asks you to explain how trade changed between this date to this date in a certain period, make sure you answer how trade changed from this date to this date in that region. Don't talk about something else that's not related. The third type of essay is the DBQ, which is where you will be given a prompt, which is right here below, we'll read in a sec, and a series of documents that relate back to the prompt that have evidence within those documents that you can use to answer the prompt. It's important in the DBQ that the information you use to answer the prompt comes from the documents, and that as you're writing the essay, you cite where you gathered the information from. I know this is the answer to this question because, as stated in document 2, blah, 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 blah. Here's the prompt from last year's exam. It says, using the following documents, so you get a list after this question, analyze the relationship between Chinese peasants and the Chinese Communist Party between 1925 and 1950. You will have to identify one additional type of document and explain how it would help you assess the relationship between Chinese peasants and the Chinese Communist Party. So this is with the DBQ, it's really testing you in your skills and your ability to read historical documents and to gather an answer from those documents. So really, you don't need any background, you don't need a ton of background knowledge to answer it, because the knowledge, the facts you can use are already in the documents. So unlike the CCOT and the comparative essay, which are testing you on your own content knowledge, the specific facts that you know, the DBQ is testing you on your ability to use historical items to answer a question. To kind of help you with this and to kind of cement the point that you're working on your skills rather than your content knowledge, you'll be given what is called the historical background at the DBQ. Right below the prompt, which is this, you will have a short paragraph that pretty much summarizes the main point of this. So let's go look at last year's DBQ. This right here is a copy of the 2014 DBQ. So when you get the exam, you'll see something similar to this. We're going to scroll down, and here is the prompt. Might need to pause to read it, but it's the same prompt. Using the following documents, analyze the relationship between Chinese peasants and the Chinese Communist Party between 1925 and 1950. Identify one additional type of document and explain how it would be used to help you assess this relationship. Here is your historical background. Japan invaded China in 1937 and occupied large parts of it until Japan's defeat in the Second World War in 1945. In 1949, the Chinese Communist Party established the People's Republic of China. This knowledge here should provide you, after taking this course, the proper amount of content needed or context needed to answer the question after reading the documents. So now, you've read your background, you've read the prompt, you then go to each of your documents. This question, I believe, had, I want to say, 9 documents? Could be 10, though. Oh, yep, 9. Nailed it. You'll read each of these documents, and it's your job to use all these documents or reference all of them in your essay and explain how, whether the source, whoever is saying it, the time period, what facts you can gain from the documents could help you answer the question of what relationship the Communist Party and Chinese peasants had during this time period. The DBQ is the last essay we'll focus on this year, but it's also one that the skill of reading documents and being able to analyze them and to put them into groups, something we'll work on the entire year. So by the time we get to it at the end of the year, you'll already be very familiar with DBQs, and you'll understand how to use them. You'll be able to focus on learning how to write the DBQ. These are the 3 types of essays, and I'm sure your head is swimming right now with all this information, and that's fine. I just wanted you to have an opportunity to kind of look through them and know what they are very briefly before we start diving into them and breaking down all the components for receiving a grade on each of these. Happy reading. See you in class.